You nightmare nerds, and welcome to this week's episode of I don't know. We were going to talk about something else, and then we decided to switch things up for our own enjoyment and to really kind of take a different approach to the Nightmare Network podcast. We are doing something we have never done before on this podcast. We are going to talk about drum roll, please. A book. That's right, a book. That is a very analog piece of media, usually formed out of words. You need to use the pictures in your head to make them happen, and we are going to be talking about that today. So, specifically, we are going to be talking about Stephen King's novel Revival, which is one of my absolute favorite Stephen King novels. It might be top 2. Which is saying a lot for me. If you guys know me, you know I'm an absolute King nerd. I've read everything Stephen King's ever written. He is my guy. He is my favorite. And Killian and I were talking about diving into some different books recently because we are like-minded individuals, and so we gave each other some suggestions. And then we started talking about Stephen King books, and I let him know that Revival is actually like a top Stephen King book that came out very recently. It came out in 2014, relative to his career, obviously. And that, aside from the Kingcast, which, like, Kingcast has been totally pushing Revival for a few years now, and if you guys haven't listened to the Kingcast, super fun podcast. Revival is just fucking awesome, and I feel like nobody talks about it enough. So today we're going to be talking about Revival. Killian, hey. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. I did just finish Revival, I think, last week, and it was great. So I suggested, I was like, hey, if we want to talk about Revival, because I know you are super into Revival.
I super am. You know what? Before we get into that, though, how are you as a person?
I'm good. Busy as usual.
As usual.
Yeah, but I got a lot of stuff going on. Not only just like with the film stuff, but then sort of like doing the professional GMing, like running nerd games for other nerds. It's really hot that you do that, by the way. Yeah. And I've actually got one tonight. So,
do you want to plug? Do you have like official game stuff that you want to plug? Like where we can, like where if people want you to be their man, like plug.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, if you go, you can just find me on Instagram at killian.lock.actor. I'm probably going to get a professional GM Instagram at some point, but not at the moment. And you can just DM me. You can email me at killianlockdm@gmail.com, or you can find me on startplayingnow.com.
Wow. That's a lot of, that's cool. Everybody, listen, not only is he super talented, but I cannot stress enough how handsome this man is.
Aww.
So, yeah, please hit him up and do your dungeon things. That'll be cool. I've never played, so that's probably something that we'll have to change.
When I come visit your new house, I'll bring some stuff and we can do a one shot.
Love it. That is also a thing. We've also been very busy. It's been a few weeks since we recorded, but that is because me and my ex-girlfriend bought a house, and that's really exciting.
Yeah, talk about that, dude.
Woo! So we bought a house. It's about 10 minutes from where we used to live. We were looking at a few different areas. So we were excited that we could stay in the area that we liked, that we'd already have a lot of memories in. It's got It's got a finished basement with a baseball bar already built in it, and I'm a huge baseball nerd, so we're going to fill it with memorabilia and kegerators, and we're just going to drink, and it's going to be freaking awesome.
That's incredible.
So, yeah, and Killian's going to come sleep over.
Yep.
We're going to have a little slumber party.
I'm gonna sleep in your bed. He sure
is.
I just love how like the trepidation there. He sure is.
He sure is.
Oh no.
So I did get to see The Blackening over the weekend too. That was awesome. So please go see it if you have the chance. Killian, I don't know if you've seen it yet, but we did talk about this, and the IFC up by you is playing
the angry black girl and her monster, and that is because you were saying that you saw The Blackening, and I was like,
right,
that's on my list. But then I saw the IFC is showing the angry black girl and her monster, and I was like, immediately that has to go higher on my list.
Do you have any plans to see it soon, or are you just waiting for time?
I'm actually I'm probably going to see it sometime this weekend.
Nice.
Yeah, so I will let you know how it is. It's probably going to be fucking sick. It looks great.
Yeah, it looks really good. And I'm going to be working all weekend, so I'm not going to have time to watch anything, unfortunately. But that's okay. Also, everybody, if I sound different to you right now, it's because I have teeth stuff going on, and I just had to go to the dentist, and it's all weird in my mouth right now. So I'm sounding a little weird, but it's not because I don't love each and every one of you individually. It's because of my own imperfections. So,
and we love you in spite of and because of your imperfections.
Aw, thank you, everybody, and specifically you, Killian. Cool. So let's get into Revival. And let's get into pure Nightmare Network fashion. Killian, do you remember the first time you read Revival?
I sure fucking do. It was a week ago.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And what was your like? What memories have you created with this special piece? Like how has it had an effect on the last 20 years of your life?
Okay, so for the last 20 years of my life, being as I'm now 30, so from the age of 10, I was waiting for Revival to come out.
Nice. Same.
And then at the age of 22, Revival did come out. And
whoa.
And then I, as a pompous prick, didn't read it for another 8 years.
Wow, we're gonna cancel you.
Yep, I'm canceled. It's awful. I'm a bad man. But yeah, no. I tore through Revival. It's a 13-and-a-half-hour audiobook. And because I'm in New York, that's the easiest way to read books is you just put it on and you can like go do stuff. I think it took me 4 days.
Wow.
To get through the whole thing.
Nice.
Yeah, it was. Really good.
So what you're trying to say is that you're going to only let me pick the books that you listen to for the next 50 years.
Yeah, sure. Let's do that.
Cool. Great.
Yeah, what about you? Do you remember the first place you read Revival? Are there any memories?
Dude, I haven't even read it.
God damn it.
Joke's on you. So, here's why I think Revival is fucking awesome and a really unique territory for King. So, massive Stephen King fan over here. Every book that comes out, I get it the day it comes out. I start reading it the day it comes out. I never miss a book. It's the whole thing. I've read every one of them. When Revival came out at a bit of an interesting time for King.
Okay.
Because, like, ever since his accident and him coming back to, getting clean and coming back to writing, in the early to mid 2000s onward, he got a little sappy. He got a little old man sappy. Like,
okay.
Just kind of like Steven Spielberg and George Lucas got old man sappy and like Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, where at the very end we find out that knowledge was their treasure. And you're just like, all right, you guys are old men at this point. He got a little old man sappy. And like, you have a book, like one of my favorite books of King's that is kind of lower on the list for other people is From a Buick 8. And From a Buick 8, if you haven't read it, it's essentially about a possessed car. Know what you're thinking, but it's a car that's actually a portal to another world, and the story spans over 20 years from when this police barracks in Pennsylvania finds this car to when one of the officers gets killed in a routine traffic stop on the side of the road 20 years after it's found. The car has been found, and the story takes place like the framing of the story is that the police chief is telling the story of this car to that officer that got killed's son. So the officer, his son starts hanging around the barracks. He finds the car in one of the garages, and the chief starts to tell him about the car because his dad had a fascination with this car.
Okay.
And essentially, the novel goes on and on about these really different random interactions that you have with the car until eventually the story just kind of ends in modern times, like, or in modern day. Like, the story ends the day that they're telling the story, and to no conclusion. And the son gets really mad about it because he wants a resolution. Like, he wants to know, did this car, through some weird way, end up killing my dad? Is there an end to the story? And Sandy, the guy telling the story to the kid, he's like, he says, that's just the way that life is. Like, there's not always an end. There's not always a conclusion. And to me, that was always like, that's a really powerful story because it's about the failure of fiction when we want to try to apply it to the real traumas of our lives, and how it doesn't always match. You know, the lessons we learn from our stories can't always match the hard reality that is our life. And I really like that, and especially because, but here's where it goes kind of wrong for me. There's an epilogue in the book where it's described early on what kind of car this kid drives. And Sandy is telling in the epilogue of the story about a night after that story took place, where he got a call about, let's say it was like a red Toyota or something. I don't know what it was, but let's just say, like, he gets a call that a red Toyota has crashed into a thing and the driver has died. Uh-huh. And so in that page, your brain immediately goes like, holy shit, after this entire book, this 500-page book about this kid not getting what he wants out of the story to make like real purpose of his life, he just gets killed at the end of it. Like, after all this effort of trying to make the story about him, he ends up getting killed. And to me, that would have been the ultimate exclamation point to the end of that book, because it's just another instance where even the story that you're reading, not the story that the character is experiencing, is just another shortcoming in the tools of fiction, which I think is a really, really interesting take to a narrative. And then you turn the page, and then you find out that, oh, just kidding, the kid sold his car to another officer. He's the one who died. The kid's okay. And, like, that sucks.
Yeah.
Like, I love that book, but that's such a letdown. Like, that's such a sappy end of a story that goes against the entire kind of, the entire point of what we've been told up until that point. So, and then you have things like Doom McKee, where at the end, his daughter does die, but there is kind of like an overcoming kind of sensation. And so Stephen King's getting a little sappy at this point in his career, which is fine. We all know that, like, his endings have always been a little controversial, right? But Stephen King is also responsible for maybe one of the most devastating and horrific endings in the history of horror literature, and that is the end of Pet Sematary.
Yeah.
Like, Pet Sematary fucking rips. And
it's my favorite Stephen King book.
The end of Pet Sematary is fucking horrifying. Like, the idea that his name's not Gage, Louis Creed. Yeah, the Louis Creed went through this entire cycle of resurrecting his son, only to have his son murder his wife and his two closest friends, and him having to essentially annihilate his own son after it, and still being that overcome with grief that he does the same process again with his own wife is fucking horrifying. Like, that is one of the best endings in horror literature.
Yep.
And it's sad to me because nothing has been that brutal for Stephen King since then. And I think, like, when he does a fucking brutal ending, like, he knows how to do it. He just doesn't do it very often. The Jaunt is another great example of that. Like, the ending of The Jaunt, fucking brutal. We did not get a lot of brutality, even from the. I mean, Desperation's pretty brutal. I would say since Desperation, which came out until 97, I think, like, from 97 to like 2014, we did not have a lot of brutal takes from Stephen King.
No.
And then I got Revival, and I was hooked on Revival the second that I opened it, because for the first, I don't know, it's like a 400 page book, maybe longer. The first 80% of 405, excuse me. For the first, I would say 80 to 85% of this book, it's really about and only about Jamie, his struggles with just living a basic life, and having Charles Jacobs interspersed, like, coming in and out of his life to make different tweaks and changes until finally they collide at the end into something that is so fucking devastating. The ending of this book is so devastating that I remember closing the book. I read this in college. I remember closing the book and just like, holy shitting. It was an ending that stuck with me for so long because of the way that you can feel Steve's struggles with his own life in this book, like with his own struggles with addiction, his own struggles with religion, with wanting to like you can see parts of him in both Jamie and Jacobs, and the struggles to just be a human, the struggles to make it through everyday life, and the struggles of like trying to piece childhood memories into the experiences of adulthood. Like, all those themes, those are very King themes, and they're all present in this book. And I think more present and more tangible than they've been in a long time. And you also have this other version of Jacobs where you can feel Steve's like obsession with wanting to know what's happening after. Like, what's going to happen? Is there something more? Mm-hmm. And the collision of those two ideologies at the end of this book is fucking horrifying. And that's what makes this objectively a top 5 King. Like, I totally believe that. And I think because it's a more modern story, and we all know, like, we all kind of know King as the heavyweight of the 80s and the 70s and the 80s, where he was like doing things for sales for books that were like almost unheard of at the time.
Oh yeah.
And he's still a #1 bestseller every time he comes out. He's been getting more critical recognition, especially since he got the award for contribution to American Letters and stuff, where critics have kind of had to, like, you know, save some face and be like, all right, I guess this guy really does know what he's doing. And I think On Writing has really given him a resurgence in literary communities because it's such a go-to book for writing now.
On Writing is one of my favorite memoir books ever written.
It's so good.
And I don't know, have you listened to the audiobook for that one?
I never have. I've only read it.
Okay. I truly implore you to go and listen to the audiobook because it is narrated by Stephen King, which, important caveat here, 9 times out of 10, hell, 9.5 times out of 10, it's not a good thing. Stephen King,
right.
Incredible writer, shithouse narrator.
Incredible writer,
yeah.
Shithouse narrator. That's my Stephen King impression.
Awesome. However,
it was not good. Continue.
Woo! Then the crown goes mild. And so we've got this guy who's an incredible writer, awful narrator, but he wrote on writing in such a conversational tone that
Yes.
when you listen to the audiobook, it just feels like you're listening to a one-sided conversation with Stephen King.
Yeah, it's been on my list to do that for a while.
Warm and nice the whole time. You're just like, oh, this is great.
I love Stephen King, and like dude's had his trials and tribulations, obviously, with like drugs and all this stuff, and not even being like able to remember like how writing Cujo and stuff like that. And like the fact that he wrote
favorite books.
Cujo's great. And the fact that he just like wrote the Tommyknockers, which if you read that book, like that book gets a bad rap, but if you read that book is like reading a cocaine-fueled fever dream like no other book. Like that book reads like acid. Like it's crazy. Like he's had his trials and tribulations, but the fact that he also is just like such a good dude, like warms my heart. Like especially if you like, we all know here that I go up to Maine all the time. I'm friends with Jamie, the guy who runs the Stephen King tours up there, and I've taken the tour many times with him. And like, but in doing that, you get to see things that you don't necessarily get to see. And the fact that like his foundation facilitates a lot of renovations to the town, which wouldn't have been done getting the funds necessary to do this. Like the library, their fundraising and donations have been able to like save the Bangor Public Library. There's a lot of different humanitarian things that he's done specifically in the town of Maine that it just makes, or in the state of Maine.
I wasn't gonna
the
point
town
that
of Maine, the state of Maine. That like, man, it's just like I'm glad that I can call him a role model. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
he's
like
great.
like yeah. It warms me up that I can both enjoy what he's putting out and him
as a person. Yeah. Okay, so all the stuff that you said about Revival is fundamentally true. Listeners, this is really great because I said that and immediately Mike's face, he was like, God damn it.
I'm gonna fucking kill. I've been waiting you've been telling me how much you liked it, and I'm just waiting for you to be like, just kidding. This is my Hunter.
No. No, because this would still be your Hunter at that point, where you're like, it's
right.
great.
Oh yeah, sorry, you're right. This is Hunter 2.0.
No, I super enjoyed Revival. I think this is a great example of a moment where Stephen King really nailed the human drama of everything, but I think he nailed it so hard that 2/3 of the book two-thirds of the book are just an incredible drama. And you only get about a third at most of the entire book is anything related to horror. And that's fine. Truly, it doesn't make it a bad book. It doesn't take anything away from the book. When I read a Stephen King book, I am going in for a horror book. And while truly the last like 2 chapters of that book are some of the best horror that he has ever written, for me, it came a little late in the runtime. It was this sort of thing where like it hinted at spookiness throughout the whole book. There's the great moments at the beginning where like Pastor Jacob's wife dies.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, we're now fully in the spoiler portion of this.
Oh yeah,
if you haven't read the book, fucking fuck off. Come back when you read the book. When Pastor Jacob's wife dies, that scene is so gripping. I listened to that scene twice. It was awful, and I was like, oh my God. And the scenes following that, I was like, okay, here we go. And then we don't really get anything that furthers that for another couple of chapters, because Pastor Jacobs just leaves. And then we just get more of Charles... we
Jamie.
get more of Jamie's life. And truly, that stuff fucking great. But I was just like, there was a couple times where I was like, is this just going to be like a weird fictional memoir of this guy's life that is occasionally marred by something kind of spooky? And that is what it is mostly until the very end.
So we did talk about this and a little bit, like, just kind of a little bit in kind of our discussions about it. And I sent you this whole big response that you just didn't reply to.
I was at work when you messaged me.
You can absolutely fuck yourself for that one. So, but essentially what I said in kind of a response to this was like, heard, but I also at the same time, like, I don't feel like that's what this story is. Like, the ending of kind of what I said before is like, I feel like the ending of this book is just a perfect collision of these two ideologies of these two different peoples. And that I think it's important that we see these things from Jamie's perspective, because he is living the struggle of just a normal. I guess normal is not necessarily the right word, but like he's the everyman.
He's just some guy.
He is, yes, and he is some guy that through another false prophet, because that's what Jacobs is. Like, Jacobs himself, I think, likes to think of himself as a god, and he's trying to control the electricity, this energy.
Secret electricity.
The secret electricity, this life force that he thinks is throughout the entire universe and in every individual person. He's trying to harness that energy, and he thinks he can. And he's putting those nodes to people's heads, not knowing what the fuck he's actually doing, saying that he's helping them. And then at the end of this book, seen through the eyes of Jamie, who didn't want any of this. Like, it gets abundantly clear at a point in this book that all Jamie wants is to not do drugs and die a horrible death. And he finds that solace in the recording studio that he gets to work at, in these kind of self-reflective glimpses into his past where he's able to play with his old bandmates and he's able to meet his old girlfriend. And he's able to have an entire, like you said, a memoir arc for himself where he has addiction problems, and through his old age and through the right opportunities, he's able to fix himself. But then this fucking God figure who thinks he owes him something because he harnessed a power that he doesn't even know about, that he doesn't really know what it does, finally admits to Jamie, I don't really know what there is. I am a false God. And so you are going to be forced as an everyday human to see what I see, to see what's beyond that final threshold. And what he sees is a complete reversal of that initial innocence in the beginning of the book where he sees the ants on the anthill. And he sees that the humans are in fact the ants on the anthill in the grand scheme of things, and that there is this cosmic H.P. Lovecraftian entity that oversees it all called Mother, right? And that and that
you're not wrong and on any of this so far.
Right. And that through that morality system, I think another part of this that's really important is that Jamie is trying to subscribe to some sort of morality system throughout his life. He's trying to improve himself, to get clean, to make the right decisions, whereas Charles Jacobs is being ruthless, doing kidnapping, murder, doing whatever he needs to do to find out, to get to the ends of his means. And then we get to the end and we see what's beyond, and there is no morality system in the world that matters. We all face the same awful.
We all meet Mother.
We all meet Mother in the same awful ant people driving us crazy fucking shit fate.
Yeah.
And he has to live the rest of his life knowing that no matter what, that is what's coming for him. That's what's awaiting him. And the most fucked up thing about this is because of Jacobs, he's robbed of his innocence. This is a loss of the age of innocence story, but set in a person's 60s. Like, he loses his innocence knowing that is what's ahead of him. And that is so fucking horrifying. Not even to think that he's the only one of the electricity people who survived with their sanity. And him going to see his brother at the end of this book and like seeing the shapes of the ant people waiting for him out of the corners of his eyes and stuff. That is so not fair to Jamie. And he's just going to live his entire rest of his life knowing that that's what's waiting for him. And that's horrifying.
I again don't disagree with any of that. I think if I can offer a note to anything or like my opinion to anything.
No, you can't. Sorry. Thanks for tuning in this week to Nightmare Network, guys. We'll see ya. Confirm your kill. Confirm your kill. Real quick before we go any further, because I do want to hear what you have to say.
Yep.
The blackening. Guess what happened in the blackening?
Was it the blackening?
They confirmed their kill.
Good.
Dude, it was awesome.
Fuck yeah. Confirm your kill.
Confirm your fucking kill. Okay, go on. Please rebuttal.
So here's the thing. All of that fundamentally correct. I just think that even just for my taste, I would have preferred there to be a little more of the horror leaking in earlier, because you do like he truly creates one of the greatest endings he's ever created, and it is this like Lovecraftian horror, and it is this cosmic horror, and it is awesome, and like gut wrenching. It is also at the very end of the book, so you get through like truly 380 pages of
I know, it's awesome.
Yeah, you get through 380 pages of what is more or less a magical realism story, wherein like there's nothing overtly terrifying outside of the death of Pastor Jacobs's wife and kid. Everything else is just sort of like it's coming, and there's like little moments where you're like, oh, this isn't good. There's like clearly Jacobs has become somewhat of a like at least lightly malevolent figure.
Right.
But like there's nothing that's like, hey, this is like a huge fucking issue. And then truly in the last 2 chapters of the book, he just slams everything open and just goes, no, motherfucker, this is a cosmic horror story. It's always been a cosmic horror story. And I'm like, cool. I wish that I didn't have to get to page 380 for that to happen, of a 405-page book. I wish that like they would have brought some of that in a little earlier. And because it's like, it is a Stephen King novel. It is ultimately a horror book. And the fact that I had to wait till the last, like, I think the last 40 minutes of a 13-hour audiobook for it to get to the big reveal, and I'm just like, that's a little late in the game for me for you to pull that out and for me to give you full credit for creating this incredible story. You need to like give me more of that as the story progresses.
I just respectfully disagree. I get what you're saying, but also it doesn't bother me one bit, because like we also do get we do get like there's the whole thing with him and the electric pictures and stuff, and he does
which
say,
is just cool.
I mean, it is cool.
That's not horrifying. That felt to me like something out of like a young adult, like mystical, like urban fantasy novel. That like straight up, that's just like a cool carny trick. That's like the Vampire's Assistant type shit. Where I was like, it's just cool.
Kind of slaps, by the way.
It's okay.
That's an underrated movie, I think.
But do you know what I mean? Where it's like, there's nothing horrifying about that. It's just awesome.
There is nothing horrifying about it. It kind of reminds me, and this is not like 10 minutes before the end of the movie that this happens, but like, or I guess you could, like, it kind of does remind me of 2 things, which ironically, one I fucking hate, so maybe maybe you have some sort of point, but the other one I don't. And it's not the novel, but the movie version of Carrie. It doesn't wait till 10 minutes. Like it's not this deep, but I would say for the first, like, I don't know, 60 hour of that movie, like you could argue that it's kind of just a story about a, like, it's like an ugly duckling kind of tale about this bullied girl who finally gets to go to the prom and realize her like her full potential of and like have the date and everything, and like it's very romanticized, like towards the end with that dolly shot that's spinning around them where they creates their own little universe. And then like but you do get glimpses of like Carrie being able to move stuff, so but you don't. I feel like in the movie Carrie it's so effective because up until she starts murdering the shit out of everybody, you don't know what kind of story that's going to evolve into. But also
not necessarily true.
I don't know, because we also have to consider that Carrie's been around for like 40 to 50 years at this point, and we don't know a world where Carrie is new. You know what I mean?
Oh, I'm just saying, like, Margaret White is a consistent, terrifying force throughout the entire book. And so, like, I think you're kind of ignoring
I'm talking
White.
movie. I'm talking movie. I'm saying just strictly movie. Like
which version of the movie?
The OG version of the movie.
Oh,
like,
you mean the one with the most terrifying version of Margaret White ever put on film?
Yes, but I for sure, totally. But you don't see what I'm saying, like a little bit, like when,
No.
especially towards the prom. We get this really kind of sweet, oh my God, this girl's going to go to the prom kind of introspective kind of thing where I for a moment, I'm ready to believe, even knowing what's going to happen, that maybe this is just a really nice story where Carrie gets to have a happy ending, even though I know that's not what happens. And then it turns into this vicious, violent. There is definitely a complete tonal shift in that movie at that point.
There is a tonal shift, and I'm not going to disagree with you on that. There is a huge tonal shift in that movie. However, we are not devoid of, or like almost entirely devoid of horror through most of the movie. You've got this. There's this like it's like a pressure cooker. You feel there's this huge pressure cooker happening between Carrie getting her powers. Or like starting to realize her powers. She's getting bullied. Her mother is this like insane fundamentalist QAnon, like Westboro Baptist Church crazy bitch. And she's truly humanly terrifying. And then, yeah, they do pull like a hard left-hand turn in the last act of the movie where Carrie, with the powers that we already know that she has,
I'm not saying we don't.
Flips and like, oh, I know, but fully flips and kills everybody with those powers. She becomes an active shooter.
Sad.
But,
Sad.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, up until the moment where we have, like, if we're just talking about the movie, we're not even talking about the book,
yes,
wherein you're getting, like, you're seeing this, like, darkness start in Carrie. Even in the movie where she's like you're only getting these like glimpses where like she breaks the mirror. She's like having that like that mental health crisis and the mirror shatters. We're getting the supplemental horror from Margaret White. And that's the thing, is we're getting Margaret there, who is terrifying and awful and truly like a boogeyman throughout this movie. And so what I'm saying is that like it's, even though we know where it's going now in the cultural zeitgeist, if you remove that, you're still watching this movie where this like, you're watching a pressure cooker and you're like, I don't know where this is going to go, but we know that this girl has a Chekhov's gun in her hand at all time and she's being bullied constantly.
All right, how about this then? How about another example? Because I hate this movie. And
okay. What movie?
The Burning Man movie, the Bees movie, but not the original. Oh my God!
Oh, Wicker Man.
Wicker Man. Yes.
Yeah.
There is
The
nothing.
Nicolas Cage version.
No, the first version. There is nothing. I don't give a shit what you say. There's nothing scary about that fucking movie until that guy gets set on fire during the credits.
I firmly disagree. I think that it just comes from, but also I read the book, so.
Excuse me. So sorry, Mr. Purist. Book over here. Dude, I don't know.
It's all about him. Like, it's only scary from his perspective, and so you sort of have to be invited into this guy's perspective, which, truth be told, the movie doesn't do a great job of. You just sort of have to be like, I'm going to choose to empathize with this man.
I don't, because he's also kind of an asshole.
He's awful.
Yeah, and I like it. Okay, this might be my first Hunter x Hunter. That movie sucks, and I don't like Wicker Man, and I don't understand why people love Wicker Man. That nothing is scary about that movie until arguably as the fucking credits are rolling and this man is on fire. Like that is the scary part.
Well, the credits don't. I mean, he's already dead when the credits roll. I'm being
a little overreactive, but still,
it is a watershed movie. I don't disagree that it isn't as good as a lot of people give it credit for, but I think that it is a watershed movie that has to be respected, in the way that, like, it is truly one of the first folk horror movies to be done like that.
I can for sure respect that, but that's the same kind of thing for me. It's like I'm watching this movie, and I don't agree that Revival is like this, by the way. I think, though I hear you, I think there is enough throughout the book to keep you, like, I mean, because certainly Jamie indicates that this is going somewhere, and that there is going to be a final confrontation at some point during this book.
That is not enough for me. Because that, to me, and this is where it becomes, this is where me going like and like needling a little. Having a narrator who survives the main event and going, and little did I know, but things are going to get much worse. I'm like, fucking, all right.
To be fair, things did get much worse.
Yes, but like that's like a thing where, like, as things are going, what you're referencing is him being like, and things were going to get very bad, and it's like, fucking cool. Yeah, we know.
I guess you can feel that way. I just don't feel that way about, like, I
think it's why that Lovecraftian horror doesn't work or like Lovecraft never wrote a novel. Because sticking everything at the end of you can stick a horrifying revelation at the end of a 10-page short story or a 20-page short story, and it's still the last 5 pages, and you're like, oh, well, it's like I didn't have to go through 380 pages to get here. But if you stick a horrifying revelation at the end of a 405-page book, and you have to go through 380 pages to get to it, it's like, you've got to give me something more than just telling me something's going to happen.
There's just but to me, there's, like, though the ending makes this book, there's just so much more to it than just the ending. Like, Jamie's whole journey is so important, and I think so important in the context of that ending too, that it just doesn't bother me. But if you feel differently, that's fine. Mm-hmm. You can feel that way, but
and that's such a nitpicky response for me too. Like, I'm acknowledging that it's nitpicky, and me going like, hey man, like, you've got to give me something more than just like reminding me that there's a Chekhov's gun in the story.
I'm gonna read it again, and I'm gonna, like, take aggressive amounts of footnotes and, like, hand you my copy, like, filled to the brim with colored Post-its, and be like, here's all the indications of something at the end. And then I'm going to say, fuck you.
There's, off the top of my head, because I just read this, so it's like off the top of my head, we've got if we're canceling out the moments where the narrator literally goes, and things were going to get much worse.
Okay, he doesn't literally go that, but okay.
There's a couple times where it gets really fucking close to that. If we remove those moments from the list, because that's just like obvious foreshadowing. It's like, well, I fucking hope that this was building to something. Then we've got the woman who robs the store,
Yep.
which is hardly horror. That's just a woman robbing a store.
Okay, first of all, the human need to rob because we are not given our own stuff by the right of being alive is modern horror, sir.
Correct. She steals diamonds.
Shit.
She steals a diamond necklace.
We all need diamonds, okay?
Yeah, she steals a diamond necklace. There's no human need for blood diamonds.
Fair.
So there's that, which is the first inkling that there is something wrong. You've got like the couple of moments where like they talk about how right after the treatment he woke up trying to like jab like a fork or something into his arm. But even Jamie in the book goes, and that just felt like it was sort of like my body just going on autopilot and being like, oh, you used to shoot up. And even like when the book suggests something and then writes it off itself and goes, nah, don't pay attention to that. Come on. Like I'm also not going to pay attention to that because the book tells the guy who survived the issue tells you not to pay attention.
All right, you know what? You're being nitpicky. Let's move on. Fuck you. So Mike Flanagan was going to make this into a movie, and freaking excuse me, Russell Crowe was attached to play Jacobs. Which was cool. I don't know what happened. Something fell through, and he doesn't have the rights anymore, unfortunately. So they're not going to make it. But that was a super bummer for me. Like that would have been sick. And from a few people around the industry that I've heard from through podcasts and stuff that have read the script, apparently the script was awesome.
Yeah. Well, apparently it's because I was looking at there was like a thing, like an interview that he did with. He did it with somebody, and he was saying that it just got too expensive. Like that the script was good, and like because I read that before I finished Revival, like I was in the first third of Revival, and then by the end of it I was like, oh yeah, no, this is way too expensive. Like to truly do it, it takes like just the amount of actors you would have to get and the amount of different locations you would have to get. Yeah. And then like the final bit with the CG and like all that. And I'm like, no, that's like $100 million movie that is that's not gonna make its money back. Or it's not like it might, but it's like I get why the studio's like,
I mean, I would go see it 508 times. So just pencil me in for that amount. So that would be, then we could do that. But so, I
wish that they did the movie though.
Yeah, it would have been cool. But I had the pleasure of meeting Mike Flanagan and Kate Siegel last year in the Banger and Banger with the Kingcast. And I was talking to him about the Dark Tower. And and now it's come to light that he has the rights to it. He has a pilot. He's going to try to do it. He's got a plan. And without disclosing certain information that he shared with me in confidence when I was talking to him, like his plan for that, he's got a few different ones. Like he's got backups. He's like, it's like whatever I can get approved. So he's got like 3 different game plans. That's going to be expensive. And he pretty much said to me, like, you want the Dark Tower to happen? Go stream the Lord of the Rings series. like go watch that as much as you can because there might be a direct correlation between like if he's allowed to do his huge fantasy epic and how good the fantasy epic currently is. So I made sure to go watch that thing like once.
You don't have to watch. You don't watch Rings of Power more than once.
Yeah, I need to do more, but at least go watch it so we can have like. Man just knows how to do Stephen King. Dr. Sleep's like one of my favorite movies. Like I fucking love Dr. Sleep.
I don't think that there's been a director on the face of the earth who gets Stephen King the way that Mike Flanagan gets Stephen King.
The cool thing about him and Kate Siegel, because I got to meet Kate Siegel too, was like they're both just huge King nerds, and like they love that for each other, and like it's so heartwarming to see them both just absolutely nerd out over Stephen King. Which is dope. But Yeah, and I've been saying for a while that, you know what I think the best adapted, true adaptation of a Stephen King novel is, like, in the history, is Gerald's Game. Like,
yeah,
it's incredible.
I would also take my top 3 are Gerald's Game, The Mist, and 1922.
I actually haven't seen 1922. I need to watch it. It's one of those things that's just been on my list for a while that I haven't really gotten around to. But looks like we are running out of time here.
Yes. Also, before we jump off, even though I'm being nitpicky, and again, acknowledge that I'm being nitpicky, I do fucking love Revival. I was just like, when it got to the end, I was like, I wish that there was more of this throughout the rest of the book.
Have you read his short story? It's in Nightmares and Dreamscapes, Crouch End.
No.
All right, go just do... Apparently there's an audiobook that Tim Curry does. So
you say less.
Yeah, go. And I haven't actually read or listened to the audiobook, but apparently everybody says how great he is at it. But Crouch End is a short story in Nightmares and Dreamscapes that is another cosmic horror of King's that, like, fucking nails it. And you'll probably like it just as much, if not more, because it's only like 30 to 40 pages and he just nails the cosmic part of this.
Yeah.
What's the other one too? I think it is the Jaunt. I think the Jaunt's the one that ends with
It's longer than you think.
It's longer than you think, but there's one where he references. Is that the one with, like, or it might be Crouch End. Hold on, I'm gonna look it up because it's gonna drive me crazy. You talk for like 2 seconds.
But so in clarifying my earlier statement, when I say that I wish that there was more of the cosmic horror stuff throughout the thing, I don't need it to take over fully. I do just mean that I wish, that it, like, there was more colors of it as it went along.
That's fair. I do understand that. And the thing that I was thinking of was Crouch End, so I had already recommended Crouch End.
I will check out Crouch End.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, that's really just the thing, is I wish that they had sort of, like, pulled more of that, like, the colors of some of it, and put it earlier in the book, just to sort of, like, have more of, like, oh shit, okay, something super, super weird is happening. Because the first time I got that something super, super weird was happening was when he was talking to his boss when they went to see the revival tent. And that's...
Oh my God, you just said the name of the book.
But that is pretty far into the runtime of the book, the first time you get that thing of, like, oh, something really fucking weird is happening.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just wish that they would have sort of pulled that a little bit further in. But ultimately, I think it's great. I think it's one of the best endings that he's ever come up with. I would love to see more stuff done with this type of thing for Stephen King. For sure. It's... Overall, I think it's fucking great. And we talked briefly about the movie. I didn't see Russell Crowe at it, but then again, why would I immediately picture Russell Crowe?
Yeah.
I pictured Hamish Linklater.
Okay, I can see that too.
And just like him getting older as the movie progresses.
I thought Adam Sandler, but yeah.
Actually, that's not a bad choice.
It really isn't. I was trying to be...
He's such an incredible actor.
I was thinking Napoleon Dynamite, but who knows?
Not the actor, the character.
The character Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah.
Jeez, Jamie.
Gosh,
Jamie, you fat lard. All right, before we get any more... Mother. All right, before we get any more ridiculous with this, thank you for tuning in to our nice little experimental book talk on Nightmare Network. Remember to share your scares, confirm your kill, and do all of the above. Thank you, everybody, and good night.
Good night.
Thanks for listening to Season 3 of Nightmare Network. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and keep an eye on all of our socials for special announcements and videos. Remember, here at Nightmare Network, you share your scares.